Hey, what's good, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 217. Might be 218. I don't know. Who cares? That guy over there, that's a familiar face. That looks like Rob Espero. Let's find out. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now. So
Can
that's
I
our rule.
interview the interviewer,
Yeah,
as in you?
sure.
Jason, how was your debut on ESPN Plus with LMU?
Yo, that was freaking beautiful. It was my first Division One indoor gig because I've done, as you know, I've done with you. I've done the beach stuff with Pepperdine's home games, the Big West Championship. In fact, we've done those together, right? Different courts, same day. Remember
Yes.
those? Yeah.
Yep,
So,
we did.
so I've done, the CUNYs in New York, which is Division Three, but the CUNYs in New York generates a bigger crowd than the MPSF. So, I mean,
Interesting.
talk all that D1, D3 thing if you want, I had a good time because one, I'm an LMU head.
Yeah.
I was John Mayer's director of operations for the beach team in 2018 and summer 2019,
Hmm.
and so try to get him to come out. But it was I felt just like you. Always feel like I'm not doing a good job. And you always leave terrified that you didn't do a good job, and then you watch it and you're like, "Oh, it's fine." So,
Yep.
if you're looking for my worst moment, I got plenty of them in that match. But no, but I
Well,
did
I
good.
mean, you're
Yeah,
you're definitely being scrutinized because you're in the presence of volleyball royalty and
yeah,
head coach Malia Shoji and her connections to the
yes,
entire Shoji family on the Hawaiian Islands. So no pressure, Jay.
yeah. Well, those kinds of people, that demographic of people is divided 50-50. 50% of them like me because I treat them like everybody else, and 50% of them hate me because I treat them like everybody else. And it is what it is. So,
Yep.
speaking of USA Volleyball, speaking of volleyball royalty, we are going to get to topic number one. I'm talking about USA Volleyball. I'm talking about USA Men's Volleyball. I'm talking about John Speraw. John Speraw just recently got appointed CEO and executive vice president of the president of USA Volleyball, and you're going to correct me into that. So, I talked to some of my sources. Some of them are okay with names. Eric Anderson, some guys are, who are into USA Volleyball. And I talked to some people who want to remain unnamed. And 100% of them love the move. 100% of them love the move. So, Rob, 60 seconds. The floor is yours. What are your thoughts about Speraw being moving from USA as a men's coach to the president, or the CEO, should I say, of USA
CEO
Volleyball?
and president of USA Volleyball. And honestly, that caught me off guard, but it is the right decision. It is the right person for the job. And I'll tell you, because of my firsthand experience in being with John at UC Irvine, his first head coach job, he came into that interview, and everyone will tell you on that interview panel, he had a plan. His plan was a 5-year plan, and that fifth year was to win a national championship. He is committed, he is disciplined, and he gives 199% of his being to that program because he is passionate for it. He loves the game. He loves the people he works with, and everything he touches has success. And it shows 3 national championships at UC Irvine, 2 back-to-backs at UCLA, on top of making Irvine become a volleyball destination for players who want to play in top programs. UCLA, not so much because it already was, but he still leaves it in better off than he found it. 2 natties and great staff being spread all over NCAA volleyball, and like people like Brad Keller, John Hawks, who's now at Loyola. I know Brad's on the women's side, but we still like Brad because he's a good looking dude. But there are a bunch of people who've been inspired and have worked with Coach John Speraw. It is an excellent choice. He will bring USA volleyball to new heights without a doubt.
Nice. Okay, I'll go. Now, when I talk to some of my people, the one thing they said about John Speraw is you're a great player, but are you a good human being? Right. So he has this rare combination of competitive nature as a player in UCLA championships, to a coach, right, to the USA coach, his 5-year plan, right, UCLA, right. So nice. He did it twice, repeat champions, right. And we I talked to Eric Anderson about how much of an overachievement of them winning the bronze was, but in their heart of hearts, they believe that they could win the gold. So when you have a room full of people and you have a sales pitch where like we're the only ones that believe we can win the gold, and we're the only ones that count, right? And what he has done for boys volleyball and some of the programs, and the name escapes me, but the audience listening can probably name it. What he's done to make people more mindfully aware of boys and men's volleyball has been probably the sole source of men's volleyball prosperity. He was the only one talking about that, to my knowledge. So now our spillover. Now that our 60 seconds are done, I would like to say this: volleyball players, when they're really good at this elite level, they have this thing in their mind like they can do anything. Yeah, I could be a CEO. Yeah, I can coach. Yeah, I can be a commentator. Yeah, I can fight crime. I can jump out of a plane and fight with the 82nd Airborne, right? It's because of the competitive nature. So with that being said, you commentating and me commentating is a different occupation. Being a CEO is a different occupation. And with that being said, this man's administrative ability to go with his volleyball knowledge, when I saw this, I thought it was like a rib. I thought it was fake, because I was like, "There's no way they would hire someone that's the most qualified for this job." I'm like, "Ain't no way they're gonna hire someone like, I mean, that's the pessimist in me, but it's also high praise to John Speraw." And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, this caught me off guard. I said that in the get-go because he and I had a conversation when he was at UC Irvine, just kind of riding back on the bus from one of the matches, away matches. He's like, "Rob, I'm retiring by 50. I have my molecular biology degree. I want to pursue my PhD in that and do some research," because that was John Speraw. But seeing how he has morphed and transformed into this volleyball personality, and we'll just say he is a pioneer. And, you were referring to the organization he started with Wade Gerard, and that's a First Point Foundation, which has done amazing things, not only for men's volleyball or boys volleyball, but volleyball as a whole, because let's just be real. The growth of volleyball in the last 8 to 12 years has been northward of 70% participation rate in high school and higher in clubs. So a lot of that is because of the work that First Point with John Speraw has been doing. We now have the SIAC, the Southwest Intercollegiate or Southeast Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, which is the HBC's 6 teams there. There's the ECC, the East Coast Conference, which started a lot of the schools that First Point had their hands in, a lot because of the vision of Wade Gerard and John Speraw. There have been a bunch of programs they've helped out. Manhattan College starts up in 2024 here, and will compete in the spring of 2025. So, there's a bunch of things happening that Speraw has had his hands on that people don't know about, because but First Point is kind of operating, I don't want to say under the radar, but they just don't have that ability to be recognized by so many people quite yet. But they are getting more and more eyes on them as the sport of volleyball grows.
I would also like to say that this man's ability to take criticism is considering his level, is uncanny, right? Because what you have a lot of high-level college coaches and national coaches and this and that. And any bit of criticism, it's like for example, in 2016, I thought he was nuts for leaving Aaron Russell in the game when you had Reed Priddy. Reed Priddy was hampered a little bit by an injury, but he was good enough to play in the bronze medal match against Russia. And I was like, man, you got some. I said, Lucy, you have some splaining to do. And I ran into him. Alan Knipe introduced me to him, and he shook my hand, knew who I was, meaning that he probably heard what I said, and took it with a grain of salt, meaning that, okay, I disagree with him, but I respect that opinion. And what I liked about him is coaches like in that same level, what they do is they have a wall of minions that will be like, "Oh, who are you to criticize him? He's done this. What are you doing? Your little right?" So that's what happens. They cross conflate attacking my character or my experience as a coach with theirs, when they don't realize that I'm a volleyball analyst and it's a different occupation, and I'm the most qualified for that. So, but he didn't have a wall of minions ready to come at me, and I respect that, and I appreciated that. And taking a picture with him and Alan Knipe together, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to take any pictures. I don't need to take any pictures with anyone else for the rest of my volleyball life. That's it.
Well, Spross surrounds himself with a lot of the similar-minded kind of people. Look
Yes.
at Ferbs, you look at Mike Cox, you look at Brian Thornton. These
Mhm.
are very cerebral volleyball coaches.
Spencer
They're taking,
McLaughlin,
yes, of
his
course, Spencer
assistant at
McLaughlin.
UCLA. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And they're taking all that information in, but they're processing, but they're realizing they have a method to their madness. And it may go against the grain and what the accepted norm is, but they're trying to push the boundaries, which is something that Spraw has continued to do. Like if you look at his breakdown of analysis and match competition, I had the blessing and opportunity of when he first started coaching a national team, he would invite me into their film sessions at international competitions. And I got to see what he, Mike Seeley, Ferbs, Thornton, Cox, and they'd sit here and critique all like multiple time All Americans. I'm like, what? They were the greatest players. Like, no, look, you can see, and they point out little flaws in their mechanics and technique and say they could do this better. Like they're pushing it even more. And the fact they can acknowledge that and then get these guys to get on board and change that technique so they can win. I mean, that is a definite gifting that Speraw has, and he finds that in the people around him.
Yeah, I mean, look, we only have an hour. We can keep going on and on about Speraw. Maybe we'd have to do another episode called the Speraw episode, right? And talk about this man's not just his accomplishments, but like you were just saying, the how, right? And the
Yeah.
how and the way he did it. It was done with class. It was done with cleverness. It was done with high volleyball IQ, competency, if you will. And John, we're gonna close the door on this chapter, but I'd like you have something you want to say. Maybe you might drop this for me.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you look at even his newer coaches, they have that same, they're cut from the same prototype. Nick Vogel and Morteza Chiari, who are assistants
Right.
with Spencer McLaughlin at UCLA, they have good stuff. They're very similar minded. And well, he's world class. Javier
Right.
Weber,
Yep.
the former Argentinian national team coach, was an assistant for Spraw as well with the USA. And you can see they have very similar demeanors and approaches to the game.
I would love to see, as far as beautiful minds are concerned, I'd love to see Sam Schweitzky work with him. Sam Schweitzky has been at Princeton, kind of doing more with less for quite some time, and in fact got an NCAA invitation. He's one of the he's you want to talk about beautiful minds or bright minds? He's not talked
Yeah.
about because he's not from that coaching tree and he's not from that cloth. And John, if you're out there, if you listen to this podcast, you don't, but Sam does. Yeah, man, make that meeting of the minds happen. That's someone that can only help the cause. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Hunter High School kid, by the way. That's
Oh yeah, look at that.
he played college at Vassar, which is Division III, but he went to in New York City, Hunter High School, won a PSALs. Sam Schweitzky. Uh, all right, topic number 2. Now, you and I, like I've been doing more coaching than commentating, but you and I as analysts and commentators have always seen volleyball matches where a lot of people make these unforced errors and they get into kind of these funks and they get in kind of these things where you're like, wow, that was an interesting move. When in our minds we don't say it, but we're like, he probably should have did this and whatever, because
Yeah.
we don't Monday morning quarterback when we're calling balls and strikes. Um, so with that being said, let's use this moment, and I'd like you to give me 3 things that you think a player can control that the other team can't take away from them.
Here we
Now,
go. You
I'll
ready?
caveat by saying they could be on the court controllables or off the court. Go.
Oh, well, I'm all on the court and some of it can be a little bit off the court. Are you ready? It'll be a quick rundown. Attitude/mental state, training, volley IQ, and knowledge of the game. Those are my 3.
Give me an example of training.
Training is going all out effort, doing what you need to do in practice in the weight room, taking care of your body, getting the rest that you need, staying hydrated, knowing what your limits are and not pushing it, but also knowing when you can push it more. I see a lot of people thinking they can do certain things that they just aren't meant to do. They have to know what their capabilities are and stick within it and contribute to the team that way.
So we got 23 seconds left. We're going to go through that again. Attitude, training, and
Volley IQ, knowledge of the game.
knowledge of the game. That's right. That is a
So that could be
control.
strategy, you name it. Maybe just going to the history of the game, looking at what other people did and applying that to what you did in your game. Being the Kobe Bryant, the student of the game.
Right. You tried to leave me some time. and we multi he's like, I'd like to give Jason the rest of my time. I'm straight
Yeah.
and simple on this one. Now, since you did 3 off the court controllables, allow me to do 3 On the court controllables. First, foremost, I go serve. That's 100% control, right? Nobody
Yep.
can jump and swipe it out of your hand like, Rob, you trying to serve this? Right? Not in my house. So yeah, 100% controllable, right?
Yep.
In system setting, if your team gives you a good pass, the other team can't make you set poorly. That is something where at a high percentile I would consider controllable. Down ball, free ball, depending on the level. Someone's giving up the goods. They can't really make you shank or mess up something that's a free ball. They can, but there are levels to that. So from club to pro, we could go 70-30, 80-20, 90-10 as far as those are concerned. But an honorable mention, starting position and where you're supposed to play. The other team cannot make you play out of position. You're playing position 5, Rob, base 3, right? That base 1, you got to play the overpass. Base 2, you got to cover that middle set or dump, and base 3, you got to cover the wings or the BIC or D zone.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Jay.
And right on time, baby. Listen, for the people listening to this podcast, you're welcome. I got a real one. I got Rob Espero that has inspired me to just say boss stuff. And you, my man, are a gold star analyst and commentator.
I appreciate that.
Now, topic number 3. I'm going to go the first 60 seconds on this one. And I'm sorry you got this email last minute. So you can.
No, it was easy.
Okay.
But not at the same time.
Well, I'm doing mine on the countdown from 5 to 1. So, guys, topic number 3. We consolidated this list to just Americans because if we went all world, maybe some people don't know that person. Maybe some people do know that person. And maybe I didn't send that to you. And you can definitely change your mind if you want. I also didn't tell you if they were contemporary players or players are like an all-time list. I'm not sure if I sent that in the email too. But the question is, who are your top 5 indoor volleyball players of all time? I'll go first to buy you some time in case I screwed you on. Because I screwed you on the email. Okay. All right. Number 5, I'm going to go Logan Tom. She's the girl from Stanford. My wife calls that the Harvard of the West Coast, the smart kid school. Participated in 4 Olympics, finished her career with 2 silver medals. Just an absolute fun person to watch. Just a passing machine. Relentless pursuit is unparalleled. Number 4, Karen Kemner. I'm turning back the clock. The girl from Illinois who just was an amazing player in 1988 and 92 and 96, highlighting her bronze medal run in 92, especially this terrific win over the unified team, aka Russia. 5 sets against Cuba. That was her down moment. I'll talk about that when the clock's done. But I'll go to number 3. Jeff Stork. Jeff Stork is my inspiration. I'm left-handed. He's left-handed. When they told me to become a setter, I watched videos for him for 2 years, so he's easily my favorite. And part of one of the best male teams ever assembled in the 1988 team. Number 2, Steve Timmons. I have an afro under this thing, a bush, and I put as much gel as I could to have a spiky hairdo. Couldn't get it done. Couldn't look like the Trojan NCAA winner. Couldn't look like the 2-time gold medalist and bronze medalist. Steve Timmons, the founder of Red Sand, who sold it to Perry Ellis. My time's up, and I would like to just finish with 2 words. Read pretty. The man is entertaining. The man is magnetizing. He's galvanizing, and he has a volleyball longevity that he left at 38 years old and started playing on the professional beach scene, right? And a year and a half later was Manhattan Beach Open champs with Trevor Crabb, with never Trevor at that time. So again, my all-time lists are favorites. All right. We know Karch is God, and we got to give Karch his respect. And we understand that there are players that are better than them. And on the international scene, we opened up Pandora's box that we could probably never close. So, Rob, who are your 5 favorite indoor volleyball players of all time?
An honorable mention list and then go into it.
Honorable mention first? Do the honorable mention first, then I'll start the clock.
Okay. It was hard because there are a lot. Because I was using a lot of criteria, people they are on and off the court versus what they did on the court.
Okay.
So that's what made it challenging. So that's why I had to put in Breed Pretty, Loy Ball, Christy Harmano Dietzen, Steve Timmons, Alicia Glass, Kelsey Robinson, and Dusty Dvorak. Background, I was a former setter. And if there's a setter in there, it's because they were inspiring to my play.
Dusty Dvorak, huh?
Yep.
Nice. Let me tell you something. So many people had better hands than him, but he was a better setter than all of them.
Yes. Yep. And so, but I'm gonna like cheat on this. You said top five. It's a five slash
Should I
six
start?
because
Go ahead.
yes, in my 5-6, Matt Anderson, David Smith, recent guys, Matt Anderson. I love the father that he is and the love that he plays with for his family. And knowing that the struggles that he had in the earlier years and how he's overcome them and seeing the man he's become is definitely one of those heart touching stories that I can't help but be a fan. David Smith, personal fan, he is deaf. He's played deaf. He is a European League champion. He is a four-time Olympian. He got it done as an undersized middle, and he's still killing it. And he may have one more going him. Jordan Larson, the GOAT. Got to mention that. Everyone knows. Micah Christensen, another good setter. And let's just say one of the best people that I've come across in the game. Family guy, dad, well-rounded individual, and just has a great countenance. And then here's another one from my past, Debbie Green, again, a setter. And I've got to end with none other than the multiple discipline Olympic medalist, none other than Coach Karai.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad you mentioned Jordan Larson, and I'm also glad you mentioned Micah Christensen. For the old school people, when you think of who's the best Olympic setter indoor all time, they're always going to go Jeff Stork because they're prisoners of the moment. And as a lefty setter who disrupted defenses, he became innovative under Marv Dunphy's I guess his college coach, right?
Right.
But there's an argument that Micah Christensen can be. I mean, Micah Christensen has been I guess nominated or posted as best setter in the world on multiple occasions, and always been like an all world team top, like for position. So, wow. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Rob.
Well,
I see your wheels turning. What's up?
well, like you look at his competition though. Pacheco, oh my gosh, another phenomenal setter. Tanuti, another great setter. It's crazy that the competition that Micah Christensen has in the world, and he's still considered the best or one of the best.
Yeah, he's and also great attitude. I think I met him at Chinese Nine Man. There was one season in 2016. Chinese Nine Man was indoor. It was at American Sports Center in California.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I saw the men play indoor. The women you see them plenty of times play indoor because they're playing sixes anyway. But
Yeah.
and I pretty sure I saw Micah there just chilling or whatever.
Well, Jay, I got to share a funny story because
Go ahead.
if I'm real with our listeners, I was a teenager growing up when Debbie Green came through him. Kind of had, the hots for her, but she's a good setter too. But it's funny because I see her going to Nicole Polster Vargas's games, who was the coach of Cal State Fullerton. I'm like, oh, flashback to my teen years.
It makes you want to go play volleyball, please. Yeah. So listen, volleyball is still about the girls. I mean, it's included but not limited to. That's the only thing we changed our category. All right.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Nice. All right. So let's move on to topic number 4. This is always one of my favorite topics. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you to shame or not to shame.
Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame. Shame.
So Rob, to shame or not to shame? After rigorous discussion and rigorous debate and to the point of exhaust, they have decided that double hit for second contact is now acceptable in the NCAA rules, right? This 40-person group deciding the fate of thousands is not something that I want to get into because I am a hater and you are a lover and I need to share this space with you. So I will ask this: to shame or not to shame? Second contact double hit rule introduced into the 2024 season. What do you think?
Well, I was a purist. Was a purist. I'm like, how can you let this go? Cats and dogs, chaos, everything. But I realized the game is transforming. Now, balls are being hit harder, which means that digs have more spin and velocity. If the set to me still comes out clean, it's a simultaneous contact, I'm okay with it because there's so much spin on these balls that are coming at people. They can only take so much spin off on the reception for that second ball. So I'm okay with it. If you look at some of the sets, they have great location, and even referees I've talked to, I've kind of like reached out to my circle, they're like, we're okay with a spin. It's the contact that we're looking at.
Abs-
So I'm good with it. Yeah. So that would be not to shame, I guess, for the people who
Nice.
get called on the doubles.
And my clock got stuck. Well, wow, it's ticking for me. Well, you know what? I will only go shame and only in this regard. The people that said, if you think that we're going to train setters different because of this rule, you got another thing coming. And they're right. A lot of coaches are going to teach their girls to set the same way. And the only reason why I say shame is because what they're not seeing is that the ones, very much like the double hit rule introduced in 2001 as first contact, the ones that they're not seeing, the ones that are least affected by this rule are the highest level players. Right?
Yep.
Like first contact with the jump serve, like that, and the serve to space on the floaters, people were not going to use their hands anyway, except for like maybe a short serve, a middle might, take his hands, run it back, one front, one, we get it. So what they're not seeing is that Division III and some of the lower levels where they're trying to generate interest and they're trying to generate people to say this is a sport, and if you want to play this sport, this is a skill set that you need to learn that's required to do it, and they're missing that. They've missed that in 2001, and we were barely recovered from that, and they might be missing that now. I'm a purist like you, is. But at the same time, I love what you said. And keep your thought, because I see your wheels turning. I love what you said about the referees understanding and forgiving spin, because you ask any referee, and I have Matt Laveau and Troy Slick Gravett on the podcast.
Yep.
It's not how the set comes out. It's how the set comes in.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I know that I've spoken to some old schoolers, people whom I love and appreciate.
Get off my lawn.
Rick Olmstead, to be
Yeah.
exact. And such a wonderful long time. And he's definitely one of the names in the game that people need to come to know, because he's done so much for the game. Yes, directly related to all the Olmsteads at BYU. We'll just leave it at that. But, he's definitely of the old school thought. And I get that too. That's how I learned the game. But I also understand that more people want to get involved in the game. They need to learn that, but also we need the game to continue playing for those at the higher levels, because, the fact of the matter is balls are hit harder, faster, and they need a little bit of leeway, so to speak. And I think that's a good way to do it.
Well, which is why it was a great argument for first contact, right?
Yeah.
Again, first contact, you're trying to protect yourself at all times, and of course, you want to extend the rally, right? So I totally get that. In fact, double contact, they're only talking in terms of fingertip, because even under the old school rules, a ball can hit here and here, and it's legal,
Yep.
right? Anybody buy a book called Volleyball Rules and Pictures, shows you how it's legal, why it's legal, the actual rule, and a picture of what it looks like, okay? So, I can't do better than that to explain it. Just go buy the book. Now, in 2001, what a lot of people don't know, because you were just neck deep in the high level stuff, that referees stopped calling carry on it because they weren't educated on the distinction of what was someone jumping in the air and taking both hands and doing this, right? No,
Right.
that's a double, but I'm like, no, that's a throw too, right?
Correct.
And what happened was gradually they started becoming more lenient on second hit and third contact, which is not protected by the rule. So these are consequences that they have to deal with, but I'm okay with it, because these consequences are not a residual thing. This is something someone has to bring to their attention and fix. And again, the
Correct.
2001 rule, it took years, because the ones that made the rules were were coaching, commentating, and playing at a level that was least affected by the rule.
Yeah. Well, what we're seeing today, specifically more in the men's side of the game at D1 and international, is what I like to call the love shove, the two-hand attack, joust at the net. They're like, oh, it's a double, that's a lift. Well, that's going to come into conversation soon too, because everyone is doing it, everyone's training it, and it's just the reality of where the game's going.
Look, once they made redirect outdoor or whatever. Well, CBVA was the last one. Redirect has been legal for quite some time. Again, it's on its own world, its own zip code, and as long as the referee determines if something's a defensive move, have at it. But now you're doing it on offense. If the rule says that's a double, call the freaking double. And if
Yeah.
it messes up the game, then have those 40 guys get in a room and get together and decide how they want to do it. That speeds up the game and makes the game more attractive. These stupid rationalizations. And I want you to finish here because I'm trying to jump off this without, going too hard in the paint on them guys.
Well, I'll tell you, I also worked a pretty well-known high school tournament this last weekend in Vegas, and a
Oh,
double was being called regularly, and I was taken aback because doing a lot of collegiate and international, it's like, what? But I realized different rule set for different levels. So,
right.
I think eventually we're going to see more of it, is just the reality of
Yeah.
it. So,
And the other thing is, Matt, the most important thing, like Matt Laveau and Troy Gravett said, including Dave Carson, New Hampshire,
mhm.
check with your league, right? Sometimes check with your league. Like going back to outdoor volleyball, the Pottstown Rumble is a grass tournament, right? It's
Yeah,
side out, it's big court, and it's to 15. That's their league. And as the players and coaches, you go in, you know that, and you're playing, and that's it. CBVA wrote into their rule book, you cannot receive serve with your hands.
hmm
Because something a lot of people don't know, especially out here, is that it has never been illegal. Even before 2001, it has only been illegal to double it or illegal to carry it. And the only reason why no one's done it, they never had enough whiskers under their chin to have, the testicular fortitude to do it, right?
right,
Or the
right.
no one had the grapefruits. But CBVA knew they had players reffing and not refs reffing. So if you
hmm
write into your rule book, if you do it, we're calling it. I respect that. And I respect the referees who stood tall and came on the podcast and said, hey, on a general level, talk with your rule book. But if you're looking for the actual criteria, and I'll repeat it
hmm
again for these people that are waiting for a spinless serve. Spin has no indicator because they're not blowing the whistle when it's waiting to see how it comes out. Most doubles you
Right.
see on a beach game or indoor, it's called almost
Yeah.
simultaneously because the ref's looking how it comes in.
Right.
Besides,
Yeah.
you're a setter. Rob, can double hit a ball, boom, boom, and it'll come out spinless
Yeah.
because you have good technique. And you can double hit balls that come out clean, like clean in the rotation sense. So
Right.
so what are we
Yeah.
saying? What are we saying? So all
Well, to
right.
be continued is I know that there is a lot of the referees that even Matt and Troy are some of the guys been in the game for a long time now. And we're seeing a new wave of referees come up. So they're
Yeah.
having to adapt accordingly.
And And unlike a lot of the refs that just want to go home and didn't want to talk about it, I salute those guys for coming on a podcast. And they answered, it was an hour and 20 minutes, but they answered 40 minutes of live questions. I linked the live stream to Old School. I linked
Wow.
the live stream to Old School and Volleyball Coaches and Trainers. So I had different sites and everybody started asking questions and the two of those guys stood tall, So, Matt Laveau, former player, right? Northridge.
Son, that's right. Former
Yeah.
Matador.
Yep. Cool, man. Where'd you go? Did you go to Irvine?
UC Irvine.
You
Go
did.
Eaters.
No wonder you're so attached. No wonder you're
Hey.
so attached. You're a homer, dude. You're a homer. Man. I don't even know how they let you call matches there. No, I'm playing. I'm kidding. So our last subject, topic number 5, we are going to move on. Another one of my favorites, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you Quick Question. Rob Espero, quick question.
Yep.
Do you like commentating more on the beach or indoor?
Woo. That is a hard one to answer. Um, how do I explain this? COVID made me like doing beach more
Right,
because there's the only thing going on and it's easier. Let's be honest. There's only 2 players
right. Got it.
and I can get more into the color description of what's going on and add some euphemisms in there and be super energetic. For indoor, 12 players. Well, you count the Libros on both sides, 14 players. I'm calling every play because Chick Hearn was someone I grew up idolizing. If you don't know who Chick Hearn is, wow, look him up. the greatest Laker broadcaster ever,
Yeah, he's a
hands down.
real one.
He described everything. If you're, because they did what was called a simulcast back in the day, TV, and they had put his voice or audio to radio, and we'd listen to him on KLAC back in the day in Southern California, and it was just as good as watching Magic, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Norm Nixon play because his descriptions are great, and that's what I aspire to. So when it comes to indoor, getting all the names, the fast pace to me just like gets my heart rate going and so exciting. So it's two different things that I like equally. That's kind of a cop out, but I mean, I just love the players. I love watching volleyball being played. So it's hard to choose,
Nice.
and especially when you have a personal investment in it and like knowing the people that are in it because of just where I am geographically, I've come to know quite a bit of players and the travels I've had. I keep in touch with people throughout the United States and even abroad. So it's hard for me to say which one's better than the other when to me it's the people that I'm supporting, not necessarily the game. The game just happens to be a byproduct of the people that I'm pumping or promoting in those broadcasts. So
Amen.
yeah, sorry, cop out answer. My bad.
No, mic drop. I'm not even going to answer that. I think you covered it all. I was supposed to answer some of these too, but you're my valued guest, so I'm going to just leave it at that. Quick question. Do you think Pittsburgh can maintain their number one NCAA standing going into the dance?
This year, more than any, I've seen the most competitive play in the top 25. It's going to be hard. They definitely have the firepower to do it, but there's teams like Texas who also have firepower who are just trying to dial it in. Nebraska always is going to be up there. You have teams like Kentucky, Louisville, Oregon is making runs. So I ask me this question as we get towards week 15 of the season, but I think it's anyone's to take right now. Pittsburgh is good right now, and they definitely have, Tori Stafford is a monster of an attacker.
Isn't she?
And
jeez.
yeah, and Olivia Babcock and their libero, Dylan Griffin, local girl. I had no idea that uh, her potential was going to get tapped in as much as it has at Pitt because she was good as a high school player and a club player, but what she's doing now at Pitt is awesome to see.
No doubt. Wow. Quick question. What's one thing you think indoor players bring to the beach? Something that translates right away. If you're thinking depending on the position, just give me an example of a position and what they would bring, because that's more of a fair, focused question. That was sent to me, but I think I'm tweaking it a little bit.
Wow.
Like,
Gosh,
for example, I'll go like if it's an outside hitter or a libero, first hit's universal. Those guys are, the wind. I don't think they care about wind. They got bullet. They're getting bullets served at them indoor. So I think their ability to take care of first hit, though it might be a little bit more shooty than up and down, right? So that would be an example. Like if I'm talking OH or libero, first hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what came to mind first, and I think it's more just my experience in seeing indoor players who were excelling in the indoor game and then coming to the beach game and doing the same thing. Blocking. Taylor Sander was always one of those super freak blockers in college. If his one-on-one situation, his ability to read and throw his hands up and change directions in midair to throw attackers off, you see that, and he's been one of the top blockers in the AVP.
He really has. Yeah.
Undersized.
I mean, it's weird. No one calls you undersized when you're up there. Like Trevor Crabb, when he played with Taylor, he was a full-time blocker. No one's ever referred to him as undersized, right? And no one's referred to, like you said, Taylor Sanders undersized. We have a joke with it. But I like what you said, because Taylor Sanders not having to worry about hitting lanes and like blocking schemes. So he's like, wait, I just get to go after this guy? Cool.
Yeah.
Quick question. What's one thing beach players bring to the indoor scene?
Ooh. I think that their conditioning is definitely better because they've had to cover more of the court in doubles or on beach, and they bring that inside. They see more of a diehard effort indoors. You see people like Jaden Whitmarsh as an example for UCLA. She is a phenomenal defender. You should see her on indoors. She is trying to hog every ball on defense because she's just that well conditioned, reads a game, and she lasts. She's played at Torrey Pines back in her high school days, but she dominated the back line. She was
Yeah.
flying all over the place on defense, keeping balls in plays that a lot of people just would have given up on.
Mhm.
And it's because of not only that mentality she has, but she's just in phenomenal shape.
Yeah. And her childlike virtue stayed the same, right? Like we've been watching her since juniors and she seems like as far as like her watching the sport and her eyes getting big like she's never seen a volleyball before, it still looks the same. I interviewed her. Stein Metzger had a freshman have to play with the seniors tournament a few years ago, and she played
Hmm.
with no, Van Winkle played with Sarah Sponsel. I forgot who she played with, but it was a great tournament. And what's his name? Stein was like, "You got to interview her because I want my freshmen to get used to media." Blah blah blah. So seemed like a really cool person. I'm glad you mentioned her. I'll go the dig. The dig is the
The dig,
beach
yeah.
player. Beach player is bringing that to indoor. Just read and react. Knowing that it's only you. And now you have two blockers. You're like, cool. What was the last indoor tournament you called or indoor match that you called? Was it
See,
was it
indoor
recent?
match. That would be the Durango Fall Classic last weekend. We saw 12 of the nation's top 25 teams go at it, and they all showed up on championship bracket Saturday.
Wow.
Uh,
Huh.
it was amazing to see the skill set of girls that are 14, 15, and 16 years old.
I,
And
we were never that good.
outside hitters, I think the median height was 6'2".
Right.
So there were girls, yep, 6'5", that
Mm.
were pretty athletic and also had like really heavy arm swings for girls who barely have any meat on their biceps.
Yeah.
So they're training, and we got a lot of good talent coming up. And they're all D1 commits already, is the
Yeah.
scary thing. Or
And they're
verbals.
all
I think they can
yeah.
verbal.
And it's technique at its finest, right? Like you
Yeah.
look at Taylor Crabb, he doesn't seem like a particularly muscular guy, but leave,
Yeah.
sleep on his swing and see what happens, right? Sharif, right?
Yep.
Sometimes technique is good. I had a guy in New York we called the Queen, Red Osborne. It was skin and bone and just, yeah. Actually
Well, on
played.
the other side of the
Mhm.
coin, too, not just outside hitters, but
Mhm.
with the IQ of what Libros have now is at the high school level, you saw so many gritty and just hard going for it Libros on a lot of those top 12 teams. And I'm pretty sure they're signed too. But if you have a defender like that behind the block or that in serve receive,
Yeah.
and there's some good stuff coming your way, you won't be out of system.
No, no doubt. And I'm glad it's becoming an acute position for women's volleyball because when I moved here in 2016, I noticed most of for men, like
Hmm.
like I would say 7 out of every 10 college liberos were outside hitters in high school, but now it's specific. So, quick question. What was the last beach tournament you called or beach match
That
you called?
Well, you saw me at that one, the Hermosa Beach Open, which is a phenomenally done event by Mark Paolui and Wedbush
Mensch.
Securities putting that on. I mean, it was so incredible seeing the different teams that came up, the breakup of Andy Benesh and Miles Partain,
Yeah.
but Partain ends up with Alex Rangieri of Italy. And then, you see Benesh with Travis Muerter, who's now the assistant at Florida State.
Didn't he look
It
good
just
that
was
tournament? Didn't he look great?
He did. Well, you know what I don't think people saw was
What?
the old schoolers heckling Travis because he is sucking wind.
Yeah.
OB and Hovland caught him, hands on
Yeah.
knees, like, you youngster, we would never be sucking wind.
But how about that? He rolls off the couch and finishes final eight, though, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, as far as nagging injuries is concerned, some taking time off is not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Less sometimes in his
Well,
case, less is more.
even he said that he careered at Hermosa Beach Open and he played
He
excellent ball.
did. He was balling. In fact, I have a top 5 highlights. I'm promoting my clip. I have something called the Hermosa Beach coverage, a 15-minute thing, and I have the
Hmm.
top 10 plays of Hermosa Beach, and he was in it. Him and Angie against Miles Evans and Budinger. It was a great rally.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite
Well,
rallies.
The other thing about Hermosa Open that I like seeing, and that's because I follow the collegiate beach game, is
Uh-huh.
seeing the girls from TCU come out and play against some of the top names.
Yes.
Haley Hamlet and Lena Camille
Yep.
flew out for that week, and they ended up losing to Devin Sowers and Carly Kahn. Not a bad loss, but
No.
they learned a ton, and they're coming into the AVCA Fall Pairs Championships. I'm assuming that Coach Hector is going to keep them together for that one. But TCU gets their Spanish Olympians back this year, which means their ones and twos pairs are going to be stinking solid.
Jeez. Wow. Good for them. So, all right. So now these are my questions that I have. Those are other questions sent to us. Who's your favorite comedian?
Comedian, Dave Chappelle, hands down.
My man. Same. Damn, great minds think alike. What was the last good book you read?
Last good book I read. Let's see. I'm going to have to go with reading a few. It's on child rearing.
Nice.
12 Intrinsic Qualities by Dr. Koch.
Dr. Koch. Gotcha. I'm
Raising kids. Trying
reading,
to
I'm
get
reading.
my edge on that one.
I'm finished reading Matt Taibbi's Hate Inc. Why today's media makes the U.S. despise one another. It's pretty cool. It's called Hate Inc. I'll show you a picture later. Last good movie you watch, whether it's in the theater or at home.
Last good movie that I watched or at home. You know what? You're going to laugh at me because I stopped on Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
I know.
Dude. I was going to say Despicable Me 4 because I took my kid to her very first movie in the theater, but I'm going to go Sound of Freedom. Bill Camp deserved to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That was a really good film.
Yeah.
Marvel or DC?
Ooh, that's a tougher one, honestly, because you go Dark Knight, I'm DC,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
you gotta like what Robert Downey Jr. has done to the Marvel
Yes.
setup with Iron Man. So that's tough.
I'm an X-Men head, and he got me to like Avengers more because of him. So,
See,
yeah.
Dark Knight, like Batman was always, because he was just a rich guy with, who had determination and was kicking the bad guys' tails. Well, lost a couple partners along the way, but still, he's human.
Right. Yeah, just like Tony Stark, right?
Yeah.
Pool or beach?
Pool or beach? Oh, that's easy. Beach. I'm a surfer.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord.
Bourbon?
Not all who wander are lost. That's the whole inspiration there.
Yes. Wow. Good. I'm gonna leave it at that. Bourbon, vodka, or tequila?
All the above?
There you go. Favorite sport outside of volleyball as a spectator or player?
As a spectator, surfing for sure.
Nice. Favorite action film star growing up?
Ooh, action. I'd have to be, I'll say Tom Cruise in Top Gun.
Nice. I'm Bruce Willis, Die Hard. I just really.
Oh, that's a Christmas movie. You got to identify that correctly.
You know what? When we run the credits on this, we're gonna finish with "Let It Snow." Okay. Remember the end? Oh, the weather outside is frightful. All right. Hey, before we get out of here, we're at our hard stop, but I want you to give people your website or your Insta handle. People want to know what you've been up to or what's been going on.
All right.
The floor is yours.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Where do I start? Well, I'm going to be on the Big West Women's Volleyball Championships. That's going to be Thanksgiving weekend. It's me hosted at UC Irvine, so I'll be on the call with my partner, Mads Fitzpatrick, who was a contributor on College Volleyball Weekly Beach Top 20, which shout out to my people in Tallahassee. Pray for your safety. I know you guys just went through a pretty crazy hurricane and have lost power, and I've been talking to you, Mads. I know you're safe, but I know that some people weren't as fortunate. So prayers to the people in Tallahassee. And I'll be working with her coming this November. Also coming up, Laguna Beach Open, November 22nd. I'll be the MC host there.
What? Nice. When is that again?
So that's the weekend of November 22nd.
Okay.
But lagunaopen.org, I think, is the website. You have to. I know they have an Instagram.
I'm gonna be coaching indoor boys in Vegas. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm back with Evolution, Duncan Avery's kids.
Cool.
Yeah, so
there is a lot. I'll be on a couple broadcasts for UC Irvine on ESPN Plus coming up. They're home next weekend. Can follow that as well. and I feel like I'm forgetting some. There's the AVCA Fall Pairs Championships in Manhattan Beach. That is the weekend of the 19th. Actually, it's 3 days. I believe it's 18, 19, 20. You'll see some of the top teams in Collegiate Beach. They're not going to be the same pairs. Well, some won't be, but they will be in Manhattan Beach, and that's to qualify for the AVCA Fall Pairs Championship in Gulf Shores.
Okay.
Also, just found out that I will be the MC host for the first ever MPSF Collegiate Beach Championships because of the non-existence of the Pac-12 now for beach volleyball. They've all been absorbed into the MPSF, and that will be in Huntington Beach, and that will be the last weekend in April.
So MPSF is now women? They have a women's MPSF now?
They're going to have, yes, they're going to be hosting beach
okay.
as one of their sports. And it
All
made
right.
sense because that's
Complete
where all the
sense.
men's volleyball teams are in. They're in the MPSF or the Big West.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, the only champions we know were Pac, right? I mean, there was only
Exactly.
9 seasons, and it was just 2 teams. It was a 2-team duopoly.
Well, until the Big Ten gets Collegiate Beach
Yeah.
in their conference,
When
they're going to
donk-
be in the MPSF.
When donkeys fly. Well, they got
So-
the money. If they wanted to do it, they'll just do it. I mean,
Yep.
Look, and yeah, we'll leave it at that. For Rob,
Yeah. So,
go ahead.
handles the Rob on the mic on Instagram because my original account got hacked. On Twitter, it's just Rob on the mic, and robonthemic.com will get you access to podcasts, interviews, and social and the stuff that I'm doing. So
All right, cool. All right, guys. Rob might love you, but I don't love any of you guys. In fact, no, I changed my mind. No. I love all of y'all. Are you kidding? Rob has inspired me to turn my frown upside down. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your desktop who runs the world, old school people, for all of you on your droids, if that still exists. For Rob Espero, I'm Jason DeBeas. This is episode 217 or 218 of the Option Podcast. And I'll hit my music. We are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.